Have you ever been angry at someone for not trying harder? For not reaching out? For pulling away? For going quiet? Before you answer, make sure they're not standing at the edge of something you can't see. Some people go silent because they're broken. Some pull away because they're exhausted. And some can't reach outward because everything inside them is already fighting. This video is about that realization and everything that quietly changes in you once you truly understand it. We live in a world that trained us to make everything personal. Someone doesn't reply, they don't care. Someone cancels plans, they don't value you. Someone goes cold, you must have done something wrong. And the worst part? That story feels completely logical. It feels like reading the situation clearly. But what if I told you that the person who stopped texting back is the same person who cries in the shower every morning? What if the one who doesn't care hasn't slept properly in 3 months? What if their silence isn't indifference, it's survival? Psychology has a name for what we do in those moments. It's called projection. We take our own emotional state, our need for connection, our fear of abandonment, our hunger to matter to someone, and we assume the other person's behavior is a direct response to us. We make their pain about our worth. But here's the truth. Most of us are never taught. Most of the time, people are just carrying weight you haven't been invited to see yet. Their silence is its own story, and you're not always in it. Here's the beautiful, uncomfortable truth about psychology. The moment you start to understand other people's behavior, you stop being able to judge it so easily. Not because you excuse everything, not because you pretend things don't hurt, but because you start to see the wiring underneath. We all walk around with invisible histories. A childhood where love felt conditional, where you had to perform to be worthy of care. A friendship that broke you open and taught you that closeness is dangerous. A moment you never talked about, but never forgot. That quietly rewrote the rules of how you let people in. Those histories don't disappear when we grow up. They go underground. And then they surface in the way we fight, in the way we shut down, in the way we push people away precisely when we need them most. The person who never asks for help learned early that needing things was a burden. The person who disappears without explanation was probably never given the language to say, "I'm not okay." The person who seems cold might be the most overwhelmed person in the room. Understanding this doesn't mean you accept being treated badly. It means you stop taking someone else's wounds as evidence of your unworthiness. Real emotional maturity doesn't look like being unbothered. It doesn't look like having no triggers, no reactions, no moments where you feel something sharply and want to act on it immediately. It looks like this. Someone says something that stings. You feel it. You notice the feeling rising, the tightness in your chest, the heat behind your eyes, the almost automatic urge to defend yourself or pull away or go cold. And then you pause. That pause is everything. In that pause, you ask yourself, is this actually about me? Or am I carrying someone else's storm right now? That tiny space between stimulus and response, that's where psychology lives. That's where you get to choose who you are instead of just reacting from who you were. Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist who survived the Holocaust, said it best. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. You don't need to have survived the worst of human experience to feel the truth in that. You just need one moment, one real moment, where you catch yourself before the reaction takes over. And if you've ever had that moment, you already know it changes something. If awareness is the first step, and it is, then self-compassion is the second. Not the version that gets sold to you on social media. Not the bubble baths and the affirmations and the soft focus photos of someone meditating. At sunrise, the real kind, the harder kind, the kind that says, I just reacted from a wounded place. I made that about me when it wasn't. I pulled away when I could have stayed. I snapped when what I actually felt was afraid. And instead of punishing yourself for it, you say, okay, now I understand this about myself. What do I do next? The people who seem the most emotionally intelligent, the ones who handle conflict with grace, who don't crumble when someone pulls away, who can hold space for another person's pain without drowning in it, they didn't get there by being perfect. They got there by catching themselves, again and again, in the moments they slipped, and choosing each time to be curious about the reaction instead of ashamed of it. That's the practice, not a destination, not a switch you flip once and you're fixed. A daily, imperfect, ongoing practice of catching yourself and coming back to yourself with a little more gentleness each time you heard something today. The idea that other people's behavior might not be about you, that their silence might be their pain, not your failure, that you can stop making someone else's storm into evidence of your worth. Just hearing it, that's step one. Step two is catching yourself the next time you're triggered, noticing the story you're building, and asking quietly, is this mine? Or am I borrowing someone else's weight? That question, practiced over time, will do more for your relationships than any conversation you'll ever have. Self-love isn't bubble baths and affirmations. It's not the absence of pain or the performance of confidence. It's the slow, patient work of understanding why you react the way you do and deciding over and over to be a little kinder to yourself in the gap between stimulus and response. It's learning that not everything is a test you're failing. Not every silence is rejection. Not every person who pulls away is abandoning you. Sometimes they're just fighting something you haven't been invited to see yet. We're all in different stages of learning to carry ourselves with a little more grace. Some of us are just beginning to ask the questions. Some of us have been on this road for years and still find ourselves slipping back into old patterns. And that's not failure. That's human. The fact that you're here, sitting with this, letting it land somewhere, that already says something about who you're becoming. Be proud of yourself. You're taking responsibility. If this reached something real in you today, share it with one person who needs to hear it. Sometimes the most loving thing we can do is hand someone a mirror at the right moment.